Right, welcome to Module 5, Advanced Mechanics in HSC Physics, and we're going to be continuing our investigation into mechanics here, which we did back in Year 11 when we looked at kinematics in Module 1. But now we're going to be focusing more on projectiles. Now, depending upon your teacher and your depth studies, etc., you may have actually looked at projectiles, and I tend to do when I do depth studies in Year 11. And so some of these principles may be some sort of revision, but we're going to be adding more detail to it. Now, with all these videos in this series here, I've made a lot of videos that look at the main key points and within this module, but also things that aren't normally explored in video courses. So we're looking at things like graphing and interpreting graphs, and we're looking at links between modules and study skills and study notes and study cards and all those sort of things which aren't normally in. But now let's get into the content of what are projectiles. So for this particular point, we're going to be examining this syllabus point right here, which is the first sort of section here, which looks at analyzing the motion of projectiles by resolving them into components. Now, we're not looking at resolving in this video, but we are looking at the area to doing with projectiles. Now, just like Year 11, you might know that some of the videos that I make here don't directly relate to explicit statements of the syllabus. Because as you know, when they write the syllabus, one word that they use may link to many, many concepts. And some of these syllabus points are so big and broad and vague that we've got to interpret them in a certain way. But with this particular one, we're going to be looking at these key features here to do with that syllabus top point. So let's get into it. All right, so what is a projectile? Well, a projectile is any object that once in the air only has the force of gravity acting upon it, and that force is acting downwards towards the earth. We can see some common examples here. Whether you're watering the garden, you can see that the water droplets are following a certain parabolic path, because once they leave the hose, it's just gravity acting on it. We can see a basketball thrower here, basketball player I should say, shooting a hoop. Once the basketball leaves his hands, then it is a projectile. There is no type of force other than gravity acting upon it. We're actually ignoring air resistance in a lot of these problems here because it makes the calculations a lot simpler. Okay, so we've got some definitions here. We've said it's only force acting on them, and they follow a parabolic path when launched at an angle, because I could have a projectile just by dropping this pen vertically. That's a projectile, but it's not following a parabolic path. So when I let go, it's just going straight down, starting from free fall. And so free fall objects are examples of projectiles as well. Or we can have ones that are horizontal. I could throw this pen, or this pencil, this Apple pencil, I could throw it like that to begin with, and it's following a horizontal trajectory until gravity acts on it, and then it starts going downwards. Then, of course, there is other features such as no acceleration in the x direction, and we're going to be looking at that and showing and proving that with Suvat equations. And so we have our definition of what a projectile is here. So all of these things tend to get tested in very simple ways in multiple choice questions in the HSC. So make sure you got those down. Here are some other examples of projectiles. So we have a motorbike here. We can see it going through the air, and as you watch it very carefully, it's in slow motion, but it's showing you that they follow a parabolic path within the air. Even a diver, once they leave the diving board or the diving platform, they are projectiles, and they are only under the influence of gravity. When we want to classify projectiles, there's sort of three main groups I guess you could put them into. The first group, as I've already said, is vertical projectiles. And so that's just where we're dropping a ball from rest, or we're throwing it upwards. And so once it leaves the hands, it is a projectile, and it's only got gravity acting upon it. And so you can have ones just being dropped, or you can have ones thrown up into the air and then landing back down. Then we have a horizontal, so a good old bird dropping a fish is one of the many, many contexts that you could be tested on. It could be a plane dropping a parcel, it could be a car coming off the cliff. There's so many ways we can test you. And so when you watch these upcoming videos, think about the underlying concepts, right? That is what they're going to be testing you. They're going to give you something that you've never seen before, but you've got to think to yourself, okay, what is the underlying concept here? Oh, this is just projectile motion. It's only got one force acting upon it. And so this is a horizontal projectile problem. So that is one example. Another one, of course, is where the projectile is launched from an angle, and there's many different types of those as well, which we'll get into in more detail later. But it has the same features. I've labeled drag here, okay, but remember we're not including drag when it comes to calculations. We're ignoring the air resistance, and it follows a nice parabolic path. So that's it for just an introductory video of what projectiles are. Hope you got your key points down there. And now remember, at the end of these videos, I want to force your brain cells just momentarily to undergo some active revision. Remember, forcing you to undergo that active revision is what really is one of the most powerful techniques. When you do research on study methods, active revision is the way to go, and it shows that it's you who are making those connections in your brain and drawing the information forward. So make sure you check out the active revision study tips videos as well. But what did we do in this video? Well, we started off by looking at what? We started looking at definitions of what a projectile was, and they had some features underneath those, and of course you should be able to recall those features. So they had things such as only has gravity acting upon it, it has ignoring air resistance, following a parabolic path when launched at an angle, etc. And then we started looking at some of those features and examples of projectiles. So make sure you're doing your active recall and that you are then testing yourself in a variety of ways. So you've got your multiple choice questions down below this video. Of course, you've got questions that are available over here. So other resources that you may have bought or have, if your school subscribes, of course, is the study cards. You have the different worksheets that I make. So there's a combination of revision sets here. These are revision sets, which are 4 pages of the main sort of concepts within the module. So you have mathematical manipulations, we have some concept sort of zoning in on them, then we have multiple choice, then we have long responses. So they're revision sets. They're also problem sets as well. You've got your A3 poster there that you may have printed off and put in your study as well, or your teacher may have printed off and put it in the classroom. All things to reinforce the main concepts we've been talking about in this video. And so in this poster here, you can see there's a variety of things that's reinforcing about what forces are on the projectile. Okay, and they're drawn on there. And we're going to be looking at those in the next upcoming videos. And so you're using these as a visual reminder to help yourself test those main concepts. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. You've got your notes, you revise them frequently, and I'll see you in the next video.